Namaste. Hello, this is Natsuya Uesugi. Today I want to talk a little bit about... I just did a video a minute ago. As you can see, we've got, I think you call it the death scale if you actually read. Grydscaen, Shannon, the head of the Imperial Guard, has a sword. Murasame, no, sorry, that's a joke. Hakenden. Has a sword. You've probably seen some of my cosplays with my sword. So if you read Grydscaen, the sword is called the Death Scale. It's got another name. I'm not going to tell you what that is right now. But yeah, I brought that out because, you know, it is a full moon today, or some moon cycle thing today, and, well, it's needed. So hello, this is Natsuya Uesugi, and today we're going to talk about mental health, and we're specifically going to talk about suicidal ideation and why it's important that medical services are given to transgender youth. And I'm going to recount a story of my own personal story because I just had to go through this story to get into my AOP day program, okay, because I just got out of the country club after 15-20 days inpatient, and so after that you have to go to a day program. Well, he put me in a day program, and Tranny got kicked out of the normal day program after one day for not participating well enough. Okay, so now we found our own very good, and don't get me wrong, okay, that program that they put me in was perfectly fine. It was just not fine for me, okay, because as someone who's ADHD, autistic, bipolar, PTSD, has an eating disorder, and is trans, and bi, for that reason, and intersex, that includes specific type things that some programs are just not ready to handle. So anyway, I, on my own, found an LGBT trans-friendly AOP day program that I'm going to be in for the next couple of weeks, and I'm quite happy about that. And so, yeah, we can go trolling around to try to figure out what that is, okay? And so, yeah, don't do anything stupid. Death scale, remember? Okay, anyway, yeah, full moon. So return to sender. Oh, okay, get that out of the way, you know, whatever. Anyway, what I want to talk about today is hormones. And if you want to click off right now, go to. Just go to. Sayonara. Okay? Go to. So if you have an issue with that, I'm just talking trans and hormones, and I'm going to give you a specific example of why this is important. When I was applying for my day program yesterday, 2 days ago, this is again why you're seeing me now. You haven't seen me in a couple of days. They asked me, when was the last time you tried to, kill yourself or commit suicide? And I'm sorry, suicidal ideation, so I'm going to put a trigger warning on this. And I said, there's been 4 times. Once, when I was 16, 17, where I tried to throw myself out of a window and slip my wrist. The second time was the 20 Valium time. The third time was the hormones time. And the fourth time was the let's walk into oncoming traffic on the highway. Okay, so at least, hey, we had a plan. The traffic plan was it's a little difficult. Especially when the Transformers are chasing you, and the aliens from another planet. Just don't worry about that. That's another story entirely. But hey, we're still here. Anyway, yeah. So, going back to hormones and trans. So I said that one of those suicidal ideation, basically, here was the thing. I was with, and no qualms on that person, because part of it's me a boundary issue. I was dating someone at that time. I had just started getting into... See, what happened with me was, I've been on all different types of hormones, okay? Some of it inflicted on me because that's the right thing to do. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Okay. Because that's wrong. And on one side of these hormones, I can't even, and my brain just won't even function. So, okay, but at least I can say I've been on both sets of hormones. Okay, one of them works, one of them doesn't. And being an intersex person with like no hormones whatsoever, you kind of got to give yourself some hormones to like have the world work right. Anyway, I was at a point when I was dating this one person, and I was severely anorexic at the time, because again, we're doing that starve yourself back to 11 thing, which if I had known that when I had my first little suicide attempt and had to go to the country club, we could have solved this whole problem, because you just would put the tranny in a dress, and give the tranny some, I don't know, I'm using tranny as a term that I use, so if it's offensive to you, I apologize, but I actually use the term, it's like I'm reclaiming the term for myself. My little transgender necklace right here, that's why I'm wearing this. Yeah. Anyway, I was severely anorexic at the time, and I think that made me a little bit emotional, and I was dating somebody who was borderline. Wow, okay. I told you a story once of somebody chasing me around with a knife. Yeah, that one. Yeah. I think borderline is actually worse than narcissist dealing with a narcissist. At least a narcissist, they follow a set of rules. Borderline, you gotta go full on grydscaen on that one. Yeah, but I was in a relationship, and I think that was the only reason that this conversation actually occurred, was because I was in a vulnerable position, because usually, I'm taking care of myself and whatever, but I put myself in a vulnerable position in a relationship that I was in, this time with a transgender male, who was just beginning their transition, and they were having some issues, but because, and I hope, wish them well, whatever, but, yeah, that wasn't going to work, but, it got to the point where I actually broke down and gave this person the full, this is how we were anorexic talk when I was 19, and put in the hospital because I was literally almost dead, because, when you're 5'11", 6 feet tall, you're not supposed to weigh, and I'm not supposed to give weights out, I'm not going to do it, but yeah, when it comes time to feeding tube is what's going to keep you alive, you kind of understand that, you better go do the needful. Anyway, at that point, it got to the point, my suicidal ideation is, I get hormones or I die tomorrow. And I never talked about my anorexia to anybody, because I kept it hidden, because it was, I don't know, college thing, childhood thing, running around, being anorexic, watching Peter Pan, not going to class, doing your Japanese homework. Oh, and medieval music, but, yeah, whatever. Not the point. The point is, I am speaking today about the importance of medical services for trans people, especially for trans teens. And taking away hormones will end up with the same exact situation that I had. As you can see, I am still here. On that day, I think it was after 9/11, maybe it was 2002, maybe it was 2004, and I may get into that later. This is a different thing entirely. It got to the point where we were sitting on my rickety couch, which we had actually hauled in off the street, living in my $320 a month US apartment. Yeah. And this apartment was not in the Midwest. Okay? So, think about that. What type of apartment that is. And it was nice enough for a $320 apartment. I actually gave up my $300 apartment for a friend who couldn't pass a background check because he could not get any other apartment. I could. So I left that apartment so that he could have it. Because he had already tried for 2 weeks to get an apartment. They wouldn't give it to him. So I left that apartment so that he could have it. Whatever, that's neither here nor there. The thing was, it got to the point with me that it was, I get hormones tomorrow or I off myself. And I was serious. I think that was a Wednesday. I had a doctor's appointment, which I got the very next day. Literally 2 minutes after I gave the conversation to this person that I was dating. Now, I didn't date that person for very much longer, but I'm going to tell you right now that if I hadn't been dating that person, that conversation never would have happened, and you would not be looking at me, the tranny, right now. The conversation was, I get hormones, or that's it, end of line. And we were full on ready to end of line. And I hadn't cried in a long time. Years. And as I recall, getting almost put on a feeding tube. And as I recall, standing up and falling down because your blood pressure just went... I couldn't even ride an elevator. Because as the elevator went up, my blood pressure spiked or went down or whatever, I would faint in the elevator. Okay, to any anorexic out there, I think you know what that means. Okay? And so you wonder why it sure tastes like cake. It's the only thing keeping you alive. Anyway, it got to the point where it was make a decision, hormones or die. The next day I got hormones. And I'm still here. When that happened to me, I was a little bit older. It took me a little bit of time to get to the path that my brain had already been to, okay? But the rest of the world outside couldn't handle. I never went through a transition period. I transitioned at 5. Okay, I was already there. It was everybody else who needed to catch up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ever seen a 5-year-old tranny in drag? In East St. Laurent dress? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not beautiful. But not the point. The point is, when you take hormones away from teenagers, that's a life and death move. And I'm giving you my life and death example that happened in, I think it was 2004. Yeah, 2004. The same year the tires flew off my car and flipped upside down. My car flipped upside down because I went to someone who was recommended by somebody else. See, I'm not listening to recommendations from anybody else anymore. I'm going to my own people. Went to someone and they didn't bolt the tires on the car right. And I flipped my car upside down on the highway. And guess what? I'm still here. Why? Because I had to deliver this message today on the new moon on, return to sender. My pen is more powerful than my sword. And there's nothing on this planet that's going to get me to shut up. So you can shadow ban me all you want. Or just take it off the platform or whatever. It came a day in 2004 with me talking to my non-binary significant other, confessing how horrible I hated myself. I wanted to control something in my life because everybody else was trying to control me. So I controlled what food I put in my body and became anorexic. I mean, to the point of death. Like I've said before, I'll go through this again. I've died a couple times, whatever. It was one of them. At that time, at least I knew it was something. I took my own butt to the country club. Okay? Well, thank you very much, my friend. I walked over to my friend's house and said, you know what? I knocked on the door and said, you know what? You need to take me to the country club, like, right now, because if you don't, I ain't going. Okay? And my ass needs to be going. Sorry. Ass. Okay. Whatever. Excuse me. Yeah. Don't take hormones away from transgender teens, okay? Give them blockers. Let them decide what's going on. Yeah, you may be a little young. And actually, I'm going to say something about that right now. When I was 16, if somebody had given me surgery at 16, I might have been a little bit too young. I had to wait for a way, way, way longer, okay? And at the time, yeah, giving me hormones at 16, 17, 18, whatever, would have solved a lot of problems. So many problems, you know. And I've been on both types of hormones, you know, and one works, the other doesn't, to a detriment level of horror that, wow, nope. Anyway. By taking the ability to get required medical care away from trans people, you're literally setting up a hormones or die situation. And as someone who's been through a hormones or die situation, because literally we were there, and I was 12 hours between hormones or die, and there was a plan, and there was a way, and it was going to happen, and guess what? I got hormones. And I'm still here. How many other people are you going to take that away from? I don't think you understand what that means. And so, it's now 17:07, and we're going to end this shortly. I guess we'll end this at 18:11. You know, I talk about mental health because it's important. Not because I want to. Not because I want to be trendy or tell you about the time I spent at the country club. No. I do it because I know that I don't want anybody to have to go through what I went through. And for all those people who said I was this or said I was that, well, guess what? You can call me a tranny all day, okay? You can call me uncooperative. But like I said, I will go to the streets any day versus being shut up forever. And like I said, 1811, goodbye, peace.